I'm going to be sharing with you in this video what to do when your manifestation isn't coming. What to do when your manifestations aren't arising in your experience in the way that you would like them to, because there's a couple key things that is very important to consider when you're manifesting in terms of why you might not be attracting what you want. And we're going to be talking about that in this video. So if you're new to this channel, what I want you to do is I want you to hit that subscribe button, I want you to hit that notification bell, because I do post a new video every single day. Also, if you want to work with me one-on-one personally, hit the link that's in the description box of this video to apply for a free consultation. Now, the first thing that I want to share with you in this video in terms of what to do when your manifestations aren't coming is to, number one, focus on the rootedness in who you are first and foremost. Before anything in the external world. This is personally how I operate. This is my value system. I'm not saying you have to necessarily operate in this way, but in my experience, when I sacrifice who I am, who I really am, who I prefer to be, when I sacrifice my level of consciousness, my rootedness in my being, what happens is that I forget who I really am. I forget my sovereignty. I forget my power. And from this space, it's incredibly hard to manifest because your life force energy is going to be low. Now, all manifestations are an energetic manifestation, and you need consciousness to manifest something. And consciousness is synonymous for energy, and life force energy is also the same thing as consciousness. Now, if your life force energy is low because you're giving away all that power, what's going to start to happen is that you're not going to be able to manifest what you want, okay? And even if you do manifest what you want, what is going to happen if your life force energy is low and you do not prioritize your level of consciousness, your state of consciousness first? I don't want to necessarily say a state of consciousness, maybe that's not the right way to explain it, but knowing who you are regardless of any state, right? This is what you need to always keep in mind, or not necessarily keep in mind, be aware of when you're trying to manifest. Because here's the thing, if you lose who you are in the process of trying to create something, what ends up happening is that usually we start trying to manifest things that we don't even want to begin with. But we've convinced ourselves that that's what we want because we get stuck in these ego loops, like this is what I need right now. So actually, you don't even want that. You've just convinced yourself you want that because somebody told you that's what you want, because you lost your rootedness in your being. So the invitation that I have for you is to never lose your groundedness in your beingness, who you are. And that is who you really are, okay? Who you are is your beingness. I don't want to say state of being, because I feel like state of being can imply some aspect of I need to control my state. But what you do want to understand is that you can be rooted in who you are prior to any state. And that will lead you to the state that you need to be in from that space, right? That space is going to guide you to the states that you want. And by that point, you won't be attached to those states. And of course, they will come to you easier than ever. But one rule of thumb that I personally like to go by in my life is that no matter what's happening, no matter if my business is maybe going a little bit left, maybe if I'm having more success in my business one month, maybe one day my channel has more subscribers, maybe another day my channel has less subscribers. Maybe one day certain things are going well, maybe another day certain things aren't going well. But you see, what I don't allow is the external world to pull me for the ride, so I get swayed by the currents of life. This is what I don't allow. Under any circumstance, I've come to realize that when I allow the external world to sway my rootedness in my being, which can include a feeling, which can include a thought that doesn't resonate with me, which can include an opinion of somebody else that doesn't resonate for me, any excuse to be distracted from being connected to who I really am. This is what life is trying to do. It's trying to distract you from who you really are. And you know what you do? You say no, you say no to the distractions, and you stay grounded in your being no matter what. When you stay grounded in your being, you build that life force back up, you build up that positive momentum, and now you actually have the energy to create what you want, and the confidence and the passion, and you trust the right structures will come to you that you need in order to manifest what you want, and you trust yourself that the external world will align from that space of being rooted in your being. Honestly, this is one of the biggest secrets that people miss when it comes to the manifestation process. There's too much control of the state, of the outside world. I need to control my thoughts, I need to control this. It's like, how about if you just, first and foremost, before you control anything, control your attention and your rootedness in who you are. Then we can talk about how to control things like your actions and certain techniques and certain manifestations, because really, if you get the foundation right, all the right techniques will come to you anyways. So this is very important to remember in this process of manifestation as well. Now, the second thing that I want to share with you in this video in terms of what to do when your manifestations aren't coming is to, number two, remember the circumstances that are happening to you is nothing more than just the past. Remember this always. Never take your cue for in terms of, is my manifestation here, from the circumstances. Because you got to understand that all that fear that's embedded in your DNA is literally playing out some sort of a momentum. And that momentum is trying to pull you in for the ride. And there's nothing wrong with that. But at some point, there's a realization where it's like, wait, I don't want to keep going with this autopilot momentum that's just happening by itself, you know? I want to take control of my life. I want to take control of my awareness. I want to take control of what I can control. Of course, we cannot control people. We cannot control circumstances. We cannot really control the external world. But we can control the place that we come from. We can control the actions that we take that gets us into alignment with the things that we want in the external world, creating a space and an environment and an energy where we create the highest probability chance of our heart's desires manifesting, and it has nothing to do with controlling the world. Now, this can only happen when we become conscious that the momentum of what has been happening does not define who you are in this moment. This is what needs to be realized if you're not manifesting your life the way that you want. If you're not manifesting your life the way that you want, most likely what is happening is that you are simply taking your cue from the past. Now, here's what you have to remember, is that the past does not define who you are. Now, what you're seeing now is really just a manifestation of the previous circumstances and previous patterns that you've been living into, that you've been sort of embodying for however long in your life. Now, you have to break those patterns. Okay? You need to create what you call a pattern interruption. You know, you need a pattern interruption. I'll never forget this. When I was really stuck in my mind, I was at a workshop working with one of my mentors. I was totally lost in the mind. And of course, I was in denial that I was lost in my mind in an ego pattern. Because of course, when you're stuck in an ego pattern, you will do everything to push away all the love and support that's trying to come to you. And you'll push away everything and you'll stay stuck in that loop. That program will do everything it can to stay alive in your consciousness, even if you don't enjoy it. It's almost like very demonic in a way once you realize this. But you know, we'll talk about that in another video more in depth. But what I will say now is that I was at that workshop, I was stuck in a program, and what my mentor decided to do was something very powerful. He decided to grab my shoulders because I guess he caught that I was in a loop, and he said, "Francis, what about the love and the joy and the abundance and the emotions? What about all of that, Francis?" He literally shook me. He shook me up. And guess what happened? I got very triggered. I'll be honest with you. I got very pissed, and I didn't realize it until a couple years later. What he did was he tried to interrupt the program that I was lost in. See, we can get lost in all sorts of programs for many, many months, years, possibly even lifetimes, playing out the same patterns again and again and again, convincing ourselves that we want to play out those patterns when of course we don't really want to be there. Now, when you realize that that's happening and you want to change that, you have to realize that what you're seeing now upon this realization in your experience is nothing more than all of that stuff playing out for many lifetimes or many years or many months. And that's what you're seeing in your circumstances. So why would you get reactive to the circumstance that is based upon the unconscious conditioning that you've been living into for however many years or months or lifetimes? That makes no sense, right? You need to realize that, wait a second, all I'm seeing now is just a result of the past patterns that I've been living into, whether unconsciously or consciously. Now, for most people, it's unconscious. But when you realize that it's been happening, whether consciously or unconsciously, most likely when you have a realization that, assumes that prior to that realization, it was happening on autopilot. Now what's happening is that you see that the circumstances are just the past. So what you do is you build momentum in a different direction, in the direction that your heart wants. And you keep going in that direction. You keep going in the direction of what you want. You keep creating what you want again and again and again. And then eventually the past issues, the traumas, the patterns, they fall away quite naturally. Quite naturally they fall away. It's not even something you have to try to heal necessarily. Healing is the realization that you can go after what your heart wants regardless of the past momentum that you've been living into, which honestly, when people talk about like trauma and like, oh my gosh, this is so traumatic for me, to me, I don't even see anything as trauma anymore. I see it as like if I'm in my mind stuck in a loop, that is actually the trauma. The worst thing that can really happen to you is you get stuck in a program, right? So what you want to do is just avoid being stuck in a program and just keep going in the direction that you want at all costs. And really, you don't need to even try to avoid the programs. You just become conscious that you're in a program, which already is assuming that, once, just in terms of the way that I'm explaining it, if you become conscious that you're in a program, that implies you are no longer in the program. The program is no longer controlling you. Okay? Once you become conscious that you're not being once you become conscious that you're being controlled by a program, you are no longer being run by that program. And then from that moment, now you have a little bit more consciousness. Now you have a little bit more free will than you did a moment ago. Now you actually have more of a say in the type of experiences that you want to have in your life, because now you have that meta consciousness to say, you know what, here's that momentum. Do I want this? Yes, let me keep going in this direction. Actually, maybe you realize, wait a second, I don't want this. Let me go in this direction instead. And no matter what momentum is pulling me in this direction, I'm conscious that that's not me, and that's simply a program that I chose to be. Does that make sense? Of course it does, because that's literally how reality works. Your entire beingness of being a human that you call human is nothing more than a collection of patterns that have certain momentum. And if you want to have a different experience, all you have to do is create and live into a different energy with a different momentum. And that simply means first realizing that the past is what you're seeing in front of you most of the times. And in fact, it's always the case. Like what you're seeing is just a manifestation of the past, and that you can choose to go in a different direction regardless of what is trying to sway you off your path and disconnect you from your personal truth. Okay? Now the third and final thing that I want to share with you in this video in terms of what to do when your manifestations aren't coming is to number 3, be who you want no matter what is happening. Okay, so let's just say you want to be a healthy person. Any health issues that come up for you, any old versions of you that come up, you look at that and you say to yourself, that is not who I am. I choose to be this version of myself simply because I have the awareness to see that these old patterns are not me. A couple months ago, I had really, really bad health issues. It's what people call eczema, which is really bad skin issues. And society, and if you Google it, says it's not curable. Yet I've cured about 95% of it, and I'm almost completely healed of this issue that society claims if you Google it, so to speak, like the masses say that you cannot heal this, okay? Now, what I want to share with you, I'm not saying this to show off, I'm not saying this to bloat or anything like that. I'm just very grateful to be in a state of health right now. And what I want to share with you is that no matter what was happening, because when you have eczema, you have what you call flare-ups, where you flare up. I don't know really why I said it in that way. It's pretty brutal. It can get really uncomfortable and very painful. But what happened was that the flare-ups, when they would happen, what I did was I actually decided to do something very, very counterintuitive. And I decided that when the eczema flares up, I am simply going to do the opposite of what I used to do that would make it worse. Because maybe on some level I didn't choose to have that dis-ease, to have that situation, but I realized that I do have a choice in terms of how I respond to the situation that I'm experiencing right now. And either I can choose to be a victim and keep falling into old patterns again and again and again, recreating the same experiences, or I can simply make a choice to break out of what I was doing and do everything in my power to aid in healing. So when I had a flare-up, I went to go eat a healthy meal. When I had a flare-up, I would go into the gym when I felt inspired to do so and move my body. And just in each moment, when I would experience anything that seemingly went against a version of me that was already healthy, what I did was I used that as a cue, as a reminder. I reprogrammed that situation. I re-alchemized that situation simply to be who I want, regardless of the flare-ups that were happening. And this is a perfect example that I really like to share because it shows that there were so many opportunities that I could have took to let my skin define if I'm going to be healed or not. Where I could look at that flare-up and say, you know what, this means that I'm not going to heal. And I did that for many years and that didn't work. So I had to think of something different and take radical action in a different direction. And that's exactly what I did. When I had a flare-up happening, I didn't allow the circumstance of the health issue to define who I am. I don't want to necessarily define my state because my state is just what it is, right? Maybe I was angry, maybe I was sad, maybe I wasn't reacting, but all of that is like, you know what, that's not me. And then I choose to simply be who I want anyways, you see? So this is the power that you have when you come from awareness and you understand what I'm communicating is that you realize that regardless of the sway this way, regardless of the sway that way, regardless of this circumstance, this issue, from awareness, now you have a choice. Okay, the storm is trying to pull me in all these different directions, but where do I want to go? What's my destination? What's my goal? And you keep your eye on that goal regardless of what is happening, regardless of the storm. You don't grab onto something in the storm. You observe that you're in the storm and move through it in the most swift and epic and wise way possible, where the storm's still there. You still feel the storm. You might still feel the storm, but the storm doesn't pull you in to go with it. And then the storm passes, and of course, all that's left is sunshine, right? And then maybe another storm happens another day, but now you have the power to not allow that storm to pull you in for the ride, right? So this is the power you have to be a divine creator. Now, if you really take this on, if you decide to embody through action, through your thoughts, the way that you're thinking, through the way that you talk to yourself, just showing up every single day how you prefer to be, regardless of the circumstances, and assume your wish fulfilled, assume your desire is already here now, you will experience magic in your life. Absolutely. And with that, I conclude this video. Once again, if you want to work with me one-on-one personally, hit the link that's in the description box of this video to apply for a free consultation. I do have limited spots available for my coaching program, so if you do want to be a part of it, be sure to apply as soon as possible. Also, if this video was supportive for you in any way, leave a comment down below sharing your experience, because I do read every single comment and I would love to hear what you have to say. Also, please hit that like button for me so that more people can get access to this content, because I do wholeheartedly believe that every single person on this planet does deserve to know. They deserve to know that they are divine creators of their reality, and that they can manifest their reality and do so in the most effortless and easeful way possible, actually helping themselves and helping others in the process as well. And hitting that like button has helped the YouTube algorithm push the videos out to more people, and that would be greatly appreciated. As always, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.